connecting neighborhoods across the Treasure and Magic Valleys, telling stories from within our communities. This is Good Morning Idaho.
Good morning, Idaho. Happy Thursday. I'm senior reporter Roland Barris. Good to have you along, everyone. Hope you're off to a great start. Getting close to the weekend, everyone. Here's what's coming up from our neighborhood reporters this morning. Riley Shoemaker bringing us the latest on Interfaith Sanctuary's new location on State Street, which comes as the outdoor camping ban goes into effect, and Mayor McLean stays focused on long-term solutions. Plus, coming up in our next half hour, Alexander Huddleston shares an online education option for Emmett schools that anyone in the state can enroll in. More on that coming up, but first let's get the latest on our weather with Sophia Cruz. We're just talking about our favorite coffee drinks, and cortado came up again. It's my favorite thing.
I love just any coffee in the morning, especially now that it's cool and in the mornings. It's nice to get a little cup of iced coffee going, and then it's hot in the afternoon and you're like, okay, I need to just sit in the freezer.
Now,
and
I gotta tell you, you like to have whipped cream on top of your ice cream or your coffee. Yesterday above the foothills, a huge thing looked like whipped cream, but it was a giant, looks like storm cloud, I guess. Is that what we got the downdraft from? Yeah, so we had a bunch of isolated storms roll through. So while it may have looked calm for you at home and other places, which I think we have some viewer photos of from our own Assistant Chief Engineer, Donovan, this just goes to show you a lot of those tree limbs and those strong downdrafts knocked down actual trees. So this may have also what it looked like when you walked outside. Thankfully, it looks like the community came together and helped really helped each other out. I don't know how much or how you even move a tree after this, but it's a good thing that everyone is just safe and okay. Another really effect that we saw were power outages. So there are still some ongoing power outages in the Treasure Valley and as you head over into Pendleton, but otherwise we are now on the calmer end of the week. So as you head out this morning, it is going to be a bit cooler because of that system that rolled through yesterday. So when you head out 8 a.m. mid 60s, we don't really warm up too much. By lunchtime, we'll be touching towards those lower 80s. Plenty of sunshine. I feel like the silver lining with all of this rolling is that now it's a cooler afternoon that we're getting, and we're not seeing any triple digits or upper 90s, which is some really nice and much needed relief. Yeah, that is nice for now, but it'll be back. Thanks, Sophia. Appreciate it. We turn now to the news and a quadruple homicide in the Magic Valley. Police say they have caught the suspect, and our Joey Martin this morning has the details.
A Burley man is in jail accused of killing 4 people across 2 counties here in the Magic Valley. I'm your neighborhood reporter Joey Martin in Rupert, where the first victim was discovered on Tuesday afternoon, prompting a joint investigation among several agencies and the later discovery of 3 more victims.
It was crazy. I was talking about it today and it was like just mind blowing. I was still trying to put it together.
Neighbors in Rupert are on edge after a home turned into a crime scene and is now part of a quadruple homicide investigation. 56-year-old Ben Naylor of Burley is now accused of killing 4 people in the Mini-Cassia region on Tuesday. According to the Cassia County Sheriff's Office, police in Rupert were first called to this home Tuesday afternoon, where they discovered a dead body. Within hours, investigators located 2 additional victims in Cassia County and a 4th later found in a vehicle in Minidoka County. Police say their evidence indicates Naylor acted alone and say there is no ongoing threat to the public. They did not share any information on the victims or potential motives. Carlos Llamas lives across the street in Rupert, where the first homicide was discovered.
I went to work last night, so I was kind of worried leaving my mom at home, She said she felt safe, and my sister even asked to come home and stay with her.
Llamas says he didn't have a lot of interaction with the people who live there, but assumed at first it was only a minor issue, like a barking dog. But once the police showed up, things escalated quickly.
I knew it was probably something much worse like that. When he said it has nothing to do with a dog, it's a lot more worse than that. And, and the tape obviously kind of gave it off as well.
Police are being tight-lipped about the details in this case, but as soon as we learn more about the ongoing investigation, we'll keep you updated right here on Idaho News 6. Reporting in Rupert, I'm your neighborhood reporter Joey Martin, Idaho News 6.
An update since this story first aired. Naylor has now been formally charged with 4 counts of first-degree murder, the defendant appearing in court yesterday for the cases in both counties. We've also learned that he was apprehended during a traffic stop by the Lincoln County Sheriff's Office following a coordinated investigation. The prosecutors say they won't be sharing much information to protect the integrity of the case. This is a developing story, and we will continue to bring you updates as we learn more. An overnight update, law enforcement calling off the search for Travis Decker. The U.S. Marshals Service is confirming that a man cited in Idaho and thought to be the at-large murder suspect is not the man they are looking for. The U.S. Marshals Service Greater Idaho Fugitive Task Force says they found the hiker, who is the same height and roughly the same weight as Decker. The hiker also has dark features, a beard, and tattoos on his arm and calf. The man cooperated with investigators and confirmed he was simply out hiking in the Bear Creek area. Decker is accused of killing his 3 daughters in Washington and, if still alive, has been on the run for a month. Investigators say they have now identified human remains found in eastern Idaho nearly 3 years ago. Now the investigation turns to how they got there. ISP says a skull discovered by a fisherman in the Fort Hall Bottoms in 2022 belonged to Lucia Olivia Pickett. Now investigators are asking for your help. If you knew Lucia, saw her before her disappearance, or know where she might have been staying before she died, call the Powell County Sheriff's Office. Nearly 1,000 residents without power this morning as a result of last night's storm. According to Idaho Power, 857 customers are experiencing an outage in an area surrounding Karcher Mall. Power for those residents is expected to be restored just before 6 a.m. Further south between Old Nampa and Northwest Nazarene, another 85 customers had an overnight outage. Idaho Power is still working to determine when those residents' power will be restored.
The fight over interfaith sanctuaries' move to Northwest Boise has stretched on for years. But after a Tuesday decision from Boise Planning and Zoning, construction at the new State Street location is moving full steam ahead. I'm Northwest Boise neighborhood reporter Riley Shoemaker at the site to learn more about what this shelter means for the city and where things go from here. The former Salvation Army warehouse near State Street is now being reimagined, not just as a homeless shelter,
all the art therapy programs that we do,
but a full campus designed for Boise's most vulnerable.
We're doing an infill project here to build a new shelter home that is a campus where we will house single men and women, families with children in their own family secured building, and then we'll have a medical dorm for our most medically fragile with all of our programming and case management and everything under one roof.
Idaho News 6 has been following this story closely, from the initial permit denial to last year's Supreme Court ruling, and this week's green light to move forward. After restarting the application under a new zoning code, the project now has full city approval.
So we have stayed the course of construction, which is keeping us on a timeline to hopefully be completed with this construction in October of this year.
The final approval comes just as the state's Galloway law, a camping ban, went into effect on July 1st. Mayor Lauren McLean says Boise will follow the law, but continues to prioritize long-term solutions.
Writing a ticket isn't going to solve a problem. However, working in partnership to advance shelter for emergency services, to work with organizations that prevent homelessness. All of that together creates the solutions that we need.
At Interfaith, staff says they're doing what they can to help guests navigate the new law while keeping the focus on services, not fear.
It's a hard one because it's it's just such a bad law. But we know that there is education and outreach happening.
The shelter is slated to be finished by October of this year, but leaders say they are still working to fundraise the final dollars needed to get across the finish line. Reporting in Northwest Boise, I'm neighborhood reporter Riley Shoemaker, Idaho News 6.
When we get back, the latest from the deadly flooding in Texas, as officials say their focus is on finding survivors before they start answering the difficult questions. Welcome back, everyone. 11 minutes past the hour. Let's take a look at your national headlines this morning. President Trump is unveiling his planned tariff rates for imports from 8 countries starting August 1st. Trump threatening to force American businesses to pay a 50% duty on imports from Brazil. Now, Brazil's sitting president says his country is a sovereign nation that won't bow to Trump's demand, instead threatening retaliation. The U.S. has a trade surplus with Brazil, so it's expected to hurt American exporters. Overnight, dozens of workers were safely rescued after a tunnel collapsed in a large industrial complex in Los Angeles. The tunnel was being built for a wastewater management project, and the trapped workers were able to scramble with some effort over a 12-foot tall pile of loose soil to meet several co-workers on the other side of the collapse. More than 100 responders made it to that scene to help those workers out of the tunnel area in a cage hoisted up by a crane. And the animal rights group PETA is suing the American Kennel Club in an effort to force them to abandon the standards that it backs for the breeding of several popular dogs. PETA asserts that the influential club is promoting unhealthy physical features and that breeding standards of certain breeds like the Frenchie Pug and Dachshund provide blueprints for the breeding of deformed and unhealthy dogs. They raise issues like breathing issues for French bulldogs and pugs and back issues for the dachshund. The American Kennel Club says they categorically reject PETA's characterization of their breeding standards. Turning now to Texas this morning, at least 120 are now confirmed dead and more than 160 still missing after deadly flash floods nearly a week ago now. Officials still focused, though, on finding any survivors before they address why they weren't better prepared. CNN's Maribel Gonzalez has the very latest this morning.
6 days after deadly flooding ravaged central Texas, dozens are still missing as search and recovery efforts stretch into the night. The community of Kerrville left reeling from the tragedy.
The screams is what haunts me. Every time I close my eyes, I hear people screaming.
More survivors are sharing their stories. Fear and confusion consumed neighbors as the floodwaters rose.
My husband kept yelling at him, throw me your baby so he can save the baby. Everybody was disoriented and they did not know what to do.
More than 100 people are confirmed dead, and that number is expected to rise. Some of the victims were children. As the nation mourns for the victims and their families, criticism is growing against the local, state, and federal response to the flooding.
I just view this loss of life in such a mass way as being totally inexcusable. And I believe that there were failures at every level of government, and no one wants to be held accountable for it.
Kerrville officials say they're willing to face the tough questions, but right now they're focused on finding the missing.
After you all go home or go to the next story, we will still be here. We live here.
In Kerrville, Texas, I'm Maribel Gonzalez reporting.
If you'd like to help support the victims of this terrible tragedy, Scripps News and the Scripps Howard Fund are teaming up to provide relief. It's easy to make a difference. Just text flooding to 50155 or scan the QR code on your screen. All funds will go directly to communities in need.
Cooler afternoon ahead. We've got upper 80s this evening with lots of sunshine today. I'll be showing you when the heat returns and what we can expect into this weekend.
Sophia Cruz with the Idaho News 6 forecast.
Welcome back, everyone. 17 minutes past the hour. You know who's been getting a lot of sun these days? Don Nelson. Have you noticed? He's just, got a major tan going.
So has our producer, Kelsey, but she also just got back from Portugal. She's got her tan going on.
Yeah,
I feel
but Don's just from being out there every day.
Yeah, that tends to happen, especially where you're in the peak of the heat.
Yeah.
We started this week off so hot. I went paddleboarding and I just got bronzed out there. Either way, yesterday afternoon, it was a little bit of a stir-up for us. We saw strong to severe storms roll through the area, and this is a photo from STAR. Shows you that knockdown tree. Now this is what really the result of those strong and powerful downbursts of wind are. So some of you it looks like this, for others of you it was just a breeze that rolled through the area. So it was really variable across. Here's what happened and why we saw these strong downbursts of wind. So when you have already a well-developed storm, you have that warm moist air rising into the storm, continuing to fuel it and helping it continue to really develop and grow and strengthen. You start to get some hail and heavy rain starting to make its way down to the surface, though all of it may not actually be reaching the surface. Simultaneously, what's happening is you have cold air start funneling in towards the middle of the storm. As it does this weakens the storm because it's cold, cold, dry air, so it really starts to cut off its supply of warm and moist, really fuels that you need from the surface for the storm to continue growing. And because of that, this updraft weakens, so all of that hail and heavy rain can no longer be held by the storm, and it's got to go somewhere. So what happens is you get these strong downbursts of wind. When these downbursts make it to the surface, it spreads out that wind in all directions. So you could get wind gusts anywhere from upwards towards 50 towards 85 miles per hour. And sometimes these downbursts can even be mistaken as tornadoes just because of how strong they get. But again, this was a downburst wind that we saw, not a tornado. Now, across the area today, it is still going to be breezy if you're in the Magic Valley. So you'll notice wind gusts sitting between those mid-20s, even a little bit breezier here in the Treasure Valley as we roll through the weekend. By Friday afternoon, those breezy conditions continue on. And I think this will really aid us because it'll be pretty hot throughout our afternoon. So that slight breeze will help pick up and really make it feel a bit cooler out there. The silver lining of all this is that temperatures are on the fall now. So as you head out the door this morning, it is going to feel slightly a bit cooler. We're waking up to temperatures sitting in those mid-60s if you're in our mountains, mid-50s, and then by the afternoon, we'll be hovering with those upper 80s and lower 90s. So taking you through the weekend ahead, you'll notice we do get a warm up as we are way into Saturday and Sunday. Temperatures are going to hover near that triple-digit mark as we start next week and roll into Tuesday and even Wednesday. So prepare still for some heat in the following week.
Was that until a big shark fin showed up next to her board.
It's the latest of several recent close encounters with sharks. Oh! Margaret Bowles and her friend paddleboarding off Cape Cod, spotting the fin of a great white.
But you can even see in the picture how my expression changes to paddling along to, oh my goodness, there's a shark, we gotta go.
At least 8 shark bites have already been reported this season, including a little girl in Florida who nearly lost her hand. Now the U.S. Senate is taking action, passing Lulu's Law, named after an Alabama teenager bitten by a shark last year. The law would allow authorities to send out cell phone alerts when there's been a shark attack, just like an Amber Alert or Weather Alert.
I consider this alert system to be, one more tool in our toolbox to educate the public about the presence of these animals.
Lulu's Law now heads to the House for approval. Allison Cossack, ABC News, New York.
I'm senior reporter Don Nelson at the new site of the Eagle Rodeo Grounds. The success of the 2024 rodeo is going to leapfrog right into a special 25th anniversary next year. Idaho News 6, I'm senior reporter Don Nelson here in the Eagle Foothills. It's been moved 3 times from State Street to Avamore to down the highway on 16. But this permanent site that they hope will be their permanent site is going to celebrate 25 years next year. We're talking about the Eagle Rodeo. Is this your favorite spot for the Eagle Rodeo?
Yeah, by far. I mean, the view's phenomenal. That's one thing we got tons of compliments on this year is the view.
Michael Gallegos has been director of the Eagle Rodeo for 3 years and says for the next 5 years, this site on Chaparral Road will be home. It's what President Tracy Baggerly envisioned almost 25 years ago.
I remember the very first rodeo, we didn't have a bleacher. People stood.
Baggerly says what hasn't changed is the fan experience.
I want them in the dirt and I want them up close. When those horses and bulls come around in the arenas, we want it very personal to them. And there's not a lot of rodeos anymore that do that. The fact that we can pick up a rodeo, move it somewhere, and basically rinse and repeat. It's unbelievable the way our guys can work like that.
Having at least a 5-year agreement helps them work on infrastructure, things like more seating, permanent lighting, restrooms, better Wi-Fi, and better traffic flows in and out of the parking lot.
Ladies and gentlemen, check it out!
Over 5,000 people came out this year, helping the 2025 rodeo break even in a costly transitional year, with enough money left over to hand out contributions to local nonprofits.
Each year we select 2 or 3 beneficiaries. Okay. We present them with a check out in the arena on usually Friday and Saturday night, and then also every night we do a pass the boot where we pass boots around the crowd and raise thousands of dollars for local charities.
Here we go!
Now with 2026 comes the 25th annual Eagle Rodeo, and they are already planning to make it the best. Organizers say when we get closer to the 25th anniversary, there will be more to talk about. Reporting from the Eagle Foothills at the Eagle Rodeo site, I'm senior reporter Don Nelson, Idaho News 6.
They found a more permanent home. Thanks for joining us this morning on Good Morning Idaho. We've got a lot more in store, though, in our last half hour on this Thursday. Here's what's still to come from your neighborhood reporters.
And Emmett, how a new online option expands school choice options for anyone in Idaho.
I'm your Nampa neighborhood reporter Keith Burrell, and I spoke with Mayor Kling and President Gordon Jones about the possibility of CWI taking ownership of the Idaho Center.
Now we'll look outside from the Treasure Valley Chevy Dealers Tower Cam.
Connecting neighborhoods across the Treasure and Magic Valleys, telling stories from within our communities. This is Good Morning Idaho.
And we are back on a Thursday morning at 6:29, everyone. I'm senior reporter Roland Barris. Good to have you along. And we've got a lot to get to in this last half hour from our large team of neighborhood reporters like Keith Burrell, sharing more details on that big transfer between the city of Nampa and the College of Western Idaho as the school is set to receive the Ford Idaho Center. Plus, our Brady Caskey tags along with the Idaho National Guard. You're not going to believe this footage. He's going to give us a behind-the-scenes look at what goes into a helicopter rescue mission. A recent one, in fact. Details on all that coming up. But first, let's get the latest on our weather with Sophia Cruz. Good morning to you. Certainly not like those pictures we just saw of that helicopter with snow on the side there. We don't have anything like that these days.
Don't even say the word snow. You know how that makes me feel. I watch snowboarding videos all the time in between our shows, and I do miss the snow. Yeah. Although I am loving summer. Maybe some of you yesterday, though, didn't like summer. We actually have some viewer photos taken from our very own Donovan, who's the assistant chief manager here. And you can see a lot of those downbursts yesterday were anywhere from 50 to 60 miles per hour, which is enough power and force to knock down a whole tree. So imagine walking outside your home and you see one of your massive trees just on the floor. Thankfully, everyone was okay, but for some of you, it may have just been a bit of a breezier afternoon. So it's very variable across the area, and as of this morning, that's no longer the case. So the sun's coming up, and as you take a look, it's a nice clear start to our day. So the good thing about this is that while storms rolled through yesterday, the sun is now shining. Temperatures are sitting in those mid-60s. It's a lot cooler out there, and if you head outside this morning, you may already feel it. Within the past 24 hours, temperatures are already on the fall, so we're not going to look at as that hot for an afternoon like we saw yesterday, but we've got mid-60s waking up this morning, and as you get ready for the rest of the day ahead, this evening we'll be touching towards those upper 80s with plenty of sunshine. So that's the good news about today, Roland, is we're getting a slight cool down.
All right, thanks, Sophia. Appreciate it. Turning to the news now this morning, our Alexander Huddleston in Emmett shares a new way that students in Idaho can get their education remotely.
School choice is a big conversation nowadays, and for this upcoming school year, the Emmett School District is offering a new online education option that anyone can enroll in from any part of the state. I'm your Emmett reporter Alexander Huddleston, learning more about Virtual Prep Academy of Idaho.
Today's technology gives us opportunities to really be flexible with what education looks like.
Since the school shutdowns during COVID, many Idaho school districts started offering students online learning opportunities. But now Emmett School District is jumping on board with the Virtual Prep Academy of Idaho.
Instead of limiting options, this academy actually increases the options available to families and students.
Emmett School District spokesperson Amanda Weirs says they will be offering hundreds of classes, including some CTE courses.
Even like HVAC and plumbing and cosmetology.
I talked to an Emmett mom who has 3 kids enrolled online for next school year. She told me off camera her kids enjoy the school setting but can't get the same experience in the typical homeschool format. Her students can't wait for classes to start on August 18th. On top of the wide course variety, this academy is free to enroll and serves every grade level across the state.
For K through 5, for the online, we'll be using Ed Options Academy through Edmentum, which is a very high quality online curriculum, very interactive. And then the secondary level, we'll be using Ed Options Academy as well, along with IDLA and BYU online courses.
Students enrolled in the program will also receive a $750 per semester in a learning account to use for field trips, music lessons, or any other extracurricular activities that aren't usually offered online. The district says that enrollment for this free platform is still open for the upcoming school year. I'm your Emmett neighborhood reporter, Alexander Huddleston, for Idaho News 6.
An overnight update, law enforcement calling off the search for Travis Decker. The U.S. Marshals Service is confirming that a man cited in Idaho and thought to be the at-large murder suspect is not the man they are looking for. The U.S. Marshals Service Greater Idaho Fugitive Task Force says they found the hiker, who is the same height and roughly the same weight as Decker. The hiker also has dark features, a beard, and tattoos on his arm and calf. The man cooperated with investigators and confirmed he was simply out hiking in the Bear Creek area. Decker is accused of killing his 3 daughters in Washington and, if still alive, has been on the run for a month. Summer is a great time to get outside and enjoy Idaho. It's also, though, the deadliest time of year on Idaho's roadways, despite the favorable driving conditions. That's why ITD is reminding everyone to drink responsibly. The key is to plan a safe ride home before you crack open some cold ones. Find a designated driver or use a rideshare service. It's always cheaper than a DUI arrest. ISP is running extra patrols right now to look for impaired drivers. Just this week, officers say they clocked a driver going 100 miles an hour on I-84 in Meridian. Police say he blew a .176, more than twice the legal limit. It's an iconic landmark on the drive up Highway 55 to McCall. Rainbow Bridge was built back in 1933, and while it's pretty to look at, it no longer meets the standards for modern highway bridges. Now ITD is looking to add a new bridge over the North Fork of the Payette River. The new structure will be located slightly northwest of the Rainbow Bridge, with wider lanes and shoulders and better visibility for oncoming traffic. The goal is to begin construction in 2028. ITD will host a public meeting to share and discuss the plans and get feedback on July 22nd at the American Legion Post in Cascade.
Is looking at giving the Ford Idaho Center to the College of Western Idaho through what's called a conveyance. And now there's some more questions. I'm your Nampa neighborhood reporter Keith Burrell, and I spoke with Mayor Kling as well as President Gordon Jones about some finer details.
This is very complex. This is not simple. I know the complex in the sense that it's not every day you are conveying a venue or property like this.
Nampa has owned the Ford Idaho Center for nearly 30 years. As soon as August, it could be property of the College of Western Idaho. State law allows for the transfer of property between public organizations as long as the City Council deems it to be in the public interest and the property is underutilized. So I wanted to know from Mayor Kling how the venue would be in better hands with CWI.
And some would say, hey, it's greatly utilized. But we can maximize the utilization to benefit students and the College of Western Idaho with the conveyance that we're talking about.
The College of Western Idaho sees new coursework opportunities when owning the Ford Idaho Center and its other various facilities.
So when this came up, it was natural for us to be thinking about, all right, what's possible? And that's where I would just think about these new programs that could be around utilizing these venues. It could be around the facilities.
If ownership is transferred to the college, CWI would add almost 100 acres of property directly next door to the main Nampa campus. Fear has been expressed of CWI simply flipping the property shortly after the institution gets the keys to the castle. Will there be deed restrictions put in, like you can't sell this for X amount of years or ever, or you need to give it back to us before it can be sold?
That's exactly right. In the agreement, CWI is not allowed to sell the facility.
At all?
At all. If they do, it comes back to us. It reverts back to the city.
We were very comfortable, and we have agreed that in the event this ever was to be not in CWI's vision or opportunities, or if we were not a good steward of it, and we concluded that's just not possible, that it would be something that the city would revert to.
The city, CWI, and the Ford Idaho Center will be hosting a town hall on July 15th from 4 to 6 p.m. here at the Idaho Center's Corral. You can hear from Mayor Kling as well as President Gordon Jones, and you can ask him your questions. From Nampa, I'm your Nampa neighborhood reporter Keith Burrell for Idaho News 6.
All right, at 6:37, let's take a look at what's happening in your neighborhood today. The Mountain Home pastor charged with human sex trafficking is set to appear in court today for a preliminary hearing. As we've reported before, Gregory Wayne Jones was the director of operations at a daycare, preschool, and after-school center in Mountain Home and was arrested back in April after several victims came forward. That hearing is set for 9 a.m. this morning. In Caldwell, Mayor Jerome Wagner is set to deliver the State of Our City address with a city department and community showcase beforehand. 14 departments and organizations will participate in the showcase at 10:30 this morning, with Mayor Wagner's address to start at noon. He will share key initiatives, progress, and a vision for Caldwell's future. And up at Bogus Basin today, you can join the free Yoga on the Mountain series. Bogus Basin and Yoga for Life partnering to offer free yoga classes every week. Just pack a mat, water, sunscreen, and get your Zen on. Thursdays are the evening series, so it'll start at 6:30 tonight, but you can also join the Saturday sessions at 10 a.m.
At Gowan Field, hear from the crew behind helicopter rescues like this. It's been a busy few weeks for the Idaho National Guard as they completed multiple high-altitude rescues across Idaho. I'm your South Boise neighborhood reporter Brady Caskey, talking to the crew behind these complex rescues at over 10,000 feet of elevation.
When you're up there, you know, the difference between success and failure is really like a razor's edge.
Theron Cameron flies a Medivac Black Hawk helicopter on some of the most technical rescues in Idaho.
When we get the calls, it's because nobody else could do it.
He and his team of rescue-ready guardsmen completed some of the highest elevation rescues in the organization's history this summer. A hoist rescue of 2 hikers at 10,100 feet on Monday, while a different crew landed a helicopter near Mount Bora at 12,350 feet just 9 days earlier to help a stranded hiker. To pull that off takes a lot of planning.
We analyzed what the weather was going to be, what the temperatures were going to be, and the altitude and the hoist location. And so we made a plan to where all those things were kind of at the perfect mix to where we could do it with as little risk as possible. And it worked out about perfectly.
He tells me crew coordination is a crucial part of these missions, and that's where Adam Brundy comes in.
A large portion of the time, I am right here on the aircraft, working in the back.
He works the hoist on the majority of their rescues and acts as another set of eyes for the pilots. But on Monday, he was lowered down to help a hiker with a broken leg.
We're extremely capable, but there's always a level of danger. There's always risk. And when you're getting hoisted down from an aircraft 50 to 100 foot down on top of a steep mountain, there's always a little bit of tension.
Even with that danger, he says helping people on what may be the worst day of their lives is like nothing else.
It's extremely gratifying. The most gratifying thing that I've done in the Army.
Exploring Idaho's wilderness can be extremely dangerous. To keep yourself and the crews at the Idaho National Guard safe, make sure you're well prepared to avoid a rescue like this. If a helicopter is looking for you, using something reflective like a mirror or your phone screen to signal them using the sun makes you easy to spot from miles away. Reporting from Gowan Field, I'm Brady Caskey for Idaho News 6.
Upper 80s as we head into this evening. I'll be showing you what you can expect coming up into this weekend.
Love your neighborhood. Brought to you by ICCU.
Everybody starts out, they'll have their own 6-inch 2-layer cake. I started Mad Cake Skills here in the Treasure Valley about 2.5 years ago. My first job was at a bakery, and when I had that job there, I learned how to decorate cakes and cupcakes. I realized that it's actually a really hard skill to come by. So the idea came about because I was like, I want to teach other people how to decorate cakes without the major investment of culinary school. Everybody, when they come to a class, they're going to have a whole setup. They'll have a spatula, they'll have their buttercream. Each class has different techniques that we focus on.
Okay.
So whether it's like hand piping or doing like floral designs, seasonal stuff. So this is where you'll fill the center of the cake, and then you can take your spatula and just spread it out like if you're making peanut butter jelly.
Okay.
So you're gonna do a really thin layer because you want like a nice layer for your other buttercream to stick on. My first class was actually here at Coiled Wines. It showed up, sold out. People had such a fun time, and I was like, let's do this once a month. And it's just every month it's just blossomed into something bigger. Our classes are meant to be really fun and inviting, open to all skill sets and all ages, just to bring people together, to make friends. I have people who come that are just by themselves, and they see them with other people by themselves, and they leave lifelong friends. My favorite part, I think, is seeing people who never thought that they can decorate cakes, be able to create something really beautiful. And then they go home and then they decide to make their own wedding cake or their own birthday cake for their kids. And it's like, they reach out to me later, like, look what I built. And it's all because they came to one or a few of my classes. Partnering with local businesses has been better than just opening up my own brick and mortar, because I'm able to support the community and bring people to places maybe they've never been at before.
Does that look right?
Yeah. And then you can just take this one and flip it, put it right on top. Okay. You see Love Your Neighborhood. I feel like people want to focus on small businesses and want to put their money towards small businesses. So every dollar you put into it goes back to building their family, building what they love to do. And I think that's really important. I think that's what makes Boise so special.
The Idaho News 6 Allergy Report is brought to you by Boise Valley Asthma and Allergy Clinic.
Looks really good on our allergy report. We're back in the low category where we have grass, quinopod, and ragweed on low. So if you're spending some time outdoors today, it's going to be a little bit cooler. Again, if those are your allergies, just keep that in mind while you are out there. I'll keep you up to date right here all through allergy season.
Sophia Cruz with the Idaho News 6 forecast.
Is 6:48, everybody. Let's get another check on our weather. Surprisingly, the allergies haven't been hitting me too hard this year. I don't know what's up with that.
Yeah, I'm okay with it though, because as you saw last week when I went home, it was
bad.
Awful. The Saharan dust, all the pollen. Ugh, it just makes me want to sneeze.
Good to be here in Idaho.
Yeah, good to be here in Idaho. Now, yesterday, you may have had a different thought, especially because we had strong to severe storms roll through the area. We had some areas of heavy hail and downpour. This video is from McCall from our viewer John. Thanks, John, for sending it in. You'll notice that all of that hail just coming down. Now, this was not severe hail that we saw, and you can tell that it's very small. So that's the good news about it. If we got up an inch, that's when you want to really bring those vehicles inside, otherwise that could cause things like damage. So the reason we saw some of these strong storms was because of strong storms and even those down power outages and down trees, or because of the strong downburst. So what happens is that warm, moist air rises into the storm, and that fuels it and drives in energy for it to continue to develop and grow. Now, while this is happening, hail and some rain start to eventually make its way to the surface, and simultaneously, cold air is now plummeting into the middle of the storm. As this cool air starts to plummet into the middle of it, it cuts off that heat and really moisture, so that energy that the storm was using to continue growing, and that updraft that was once strong now weakens. When it weakens, eventually that heavy rain and hail can no longer be held by the storm, and it's got to go somewhere. So unfortunately, it goes down to the surface, and what you see is that strong downburst come from this really the middle of the storm. And so as it makes its way to the surface, it splits in all directions, and that's when you see those gusty winds anywhere from 50 to upwards towards 85 miles per hour at times. And the thing is, with that, we do again see that strong downburst at the site of the storm, so other spots may have looked a little bit quieter, but it travels quite far. Now, the good news about today and the silver lining that we saw is that we're looking at a cooler afternoon ahead. You've got lower 90s, upper 80s, so quite comfortable. If you're in our mountains, even better up there, lower 80s as you make your way into your afternoon. As we get ready for the rest of the day in the next couple hours, clear skies are going to follow us into our evening ahead. Story goes for Friday afternoon. You see a few clouds building over across those east central mountains, but overall it's going to be quiet, and as things start to get quieter out there, you'll notice that we do still have some breezes to follow us. It'll be a bit breezier in the Magic Valley today, but by 8 o'clock some stronger wind gusts will roll through, about 20 miles per hour, so not as strong as yesterday, but it is going to contribute to a breeze leading us and really heading into our weekend. By Saturday morning, it looks a lot quieter out there. Now again, here's what it looks like as you make your way into the weekend. We do get mid-90s returning by Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday of next week. Temperatures are going to be hovering near triple digits. So again, it is still going to be a hot week ahead, but just not as hot today. If you want to read more about the forecast, head on over to idahonews6.com. All right, we're going to go ahead now and get a look at your roads.
The Idaho News 6 Traffic Report is brought to you by Champion Windows.
6:51 is your time where we're giving you a live look of downtown. It's nice, beautiful, sunny start to our Thursday morning or Friday Eve. Weekend's right around the corner. Now, if you're heading out for your morning commute, it is looking a little bit busier on I-84 eastbound. Now, it's not too busy just yet, but on Carter Road, if you're also going on that avenue, you may run into a little bit of stop and go. Right now, downtown Meridian to the airport comes in at just under 15 minutes. Cobble to Garrity sitting at under 17, so a little bit heavier if you're making your way into Garrity. Garrity into Eagle, and Eagle into downtown right now both look good though.
In this morning's GMA First Look.
It is day 6 of 30 of my ChatGPT challenge.
It's a challenge Jennifer Allen never thought she'd be doing.
Every day I'm asking for one task to make money to pay down my $23,000 in credit card debt.
30 days, 30 challenges, and with the help of artificial intelligence, one goal: erasing all that debt.
I would say the biggest change for me was looking at my debt every day, because I went from not looking at it at all to, being in it every day, looking at like where the numbers were, looking at what I could do.
And coming up at 7 a.m., what you need to know about how AI can help you erase debt. With your GMA First Look, I'm Andrew Dimbert, ABC News, New York.
It is 5 minutes before the hour. Thanks for joining us on Good Morning Idaho this morning, and we are just starting to wrap things up. In case you missed it, here are the top stories we're following from our neighborhood reporters. A Burley man was arrested yesterday and charged with 4 counts of first-degree murder in 2 counties. Benjamin Roy Naylor appeared in both Minidoka and Cassia counties yesterday and remains in custody without bond. We'll continue to update on this story as we learn more. Interfaith Sanctuary's new shelter location in northwest Boise was moving forward after city approval now. Construction is already underway and leaders preparing for a fall opening amid the rollout of Idaho's camping ban. And after relocating 3 times over the years, the Eagle Rodeo has found what organizers hope will be its permanent home, moving from its previous location on State Street to Avamore and Highway 16. Now they found a more permanent spot. You can learn more about all of these stories on our website, idahonews6.com.
Now, the Out the Door forecast, brought to you by Pella Windows and Doors.
6:57 is your time, and it's a cooler start to our morning, so enjoy that nice cool weather. You got lower 60s as you head out by 7 a.m., but the later afternoon head upper 80s, so not as hot today. So enjoy that nice, beautiful sunshine. We'll get into the afternoon. Grab the sunglasses, make sure you wear sunscreen, and if you want to read more about what's in store for the weekend, head on over to idahonews6.com. Otherwise, let's get you ready for your morning commute.
The Idaho News 6 traffic report is brought to you by Champion Windows.
6:57 is now your time. I'm showing you a look of I-84 west of Middleton Road. Starting to get a little bit busier out there this morning, but overall it's been pretty quiet so far. If you are making your way from Caldwell, though, heads up. I-84 still looks pretty congested. Just to give you a little closer look, Karcher Road being one of those congested spots too, and this is as, again, you're approaching I-84 off of really as you approach Terry Lane. So just keep that in mind if you are getting that later start to the day. Closer downtown, looks nice and quiet. So the nice, quiet roads are good, but yesterday that wasn't the story with our weather rolling. We saw all of those strong storms roll through.
Yeah, it was pretty wild, but the big thing is we didn't get a lot of lightning, it doesn't sound like, because this time of year you could have some big fires going on all over the place, and I think we've kind of gotten lucky.
No, I'm not even going to say anything because I don't want to jinx us, and so you need to knock on wood.
Right, I know, knock on wood. I mean, inevitably, during the summertime we're going to have fires, but let's hope that it's a minor season. Hey, thanks for joining us, everybody, on this Friday Eve. Have yourself a great day, and we'll see you back here tomorrow.